was in second grade, I was forced to take piano lessons, and I hated it. I whined and complained, and they let me quit. And then in high school, I figured that if I learned piano, that might go over pretty good with the girls. And it did a little bit at first, but I also quickly kind of forgot that as my reason and got into the fun of writing it down, the math, basically. I asked my course teacher what a chord progression was. That's how basically it started for me in high school. I learned that, and then I started playing around with graph paper and writing down scales and chords, and got excited because I thought I discovered music theory until I then checked out a few books and found that this has already been done. Music is probably the purest form of communicating that I've found. Ever since I was a teenager, I've tried to figure out the things that have been going on in my life and write songs about them and make it make sense, and ideally make it make sense to somebody else, which I feel like every now and then I've managed. But outside of that, it's also a way to organize the things going on around you, kind of make sense of the world, and that sounds a little bit highfalutin, but basically expression. In high school, I used to hang out at the music store called the Melody Shop in Marquette, and I took a couple of lessons there, but it was largely about the community. It was the people that worked there, a lot of the other students. I got to know a lot of other people in town that played music just by hanging out there. And then, of course, over the years, a handful of different bands. Those are like little family units. Each one was incredibly different, and was also a pretty unique experience in itself. I think that experience and what most people think of as talent are highly misplaced in terms of their importance. I think that most people have a filter that they use those words to describe that essentially just comes down to fear. And I think that the best thing you can do is just try it and tell yourself it's not going to matter. It's the reason I talked about open mics being so important, because it was an environment that you could get up and try it and there was zero judgment, which actually isn't technically true. There were a few people that we got judgy about, but not to their face, hardly ever. But ultimately, I just can't stress the importance enough of just sitting down and trying, and then telling yourself ahead of time, it doesn't matter if you can instantly do what you think you want to do or be as good as you want to be, that the whole point is just to enjoy the experience. And for myself, for example, starting on the piano as a teenager, I would often sit in a almost dark room and just let my hands find keys that I liked the sound of. I wasn't thinking about how it was going to sound. I wasn't thinking of anything other than what does it feel like to just sit here at the piano and just soak it in. And I think if more people were willing to let themselves do that, they'd probably find themselves able to start down a process of getting better. I mean, it's also tricky in that you're never as good as you can be, and there's always room to grow. And the mistake is thinking that at any point along the way that you have failed, because it's like growing up. There's always the next day. You're always going to be in a new place. So just try it. Have fun with it. We all only have so much time that we exist. And I feel like one of the defining signs that your life here has been worthwhile is what kind of positive effect have you made in others people's lives and experiences. And I think creating is the surest way to do that, whatever kind of creation it is. Because when you create, then you have something that other people get to enjoy. And so for me, that's always had a sense of vital purpose, I guess, about it that made me feel like there was something worth doing, even if at any given moment it didn't seem like anybody else cared or was listening or anything else. It was more about what I felt like I was doing. In high school, I had the dream. I wanted to write a song that was going to be known the world over and people would remember it for decades to come. Kind of like Stairway to Heaven, which is, probably not as quite remembered now as it was when I was a kid, but I ended up kind of cashing that in and going the route of starting a family and building a career, and had put music by the side, but it never really got put away. And I sort of feel like in my later years I'm dusting off that old project, and I don't know that I expect, again, to write the song that anyone's going to remember 50 years from now. 100 years from now. But I feel like a goal like that is hard to argue with in terms of a worthwhile way to spend one's time, as opposed to watching, The Office one more time.
I'm so tired of writing songs for you. Seems like the only thing I do. Well, after this one I'm through. You're gonna have to show me that you're real if you wanna hear how I feel about you.